Can you hear me? There was a disconnection of the line.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so you explained very well. Yeah, that is based on the observations. So my question was, has anyone gone to Buttal area and found some Geuda corundum?
Yes, we found.
Okay, so what did you observe that particular samples? Any special feature did you see? Some of maybe not everything, but some of the corundum.
Mm,
How was the size of those corundum? So you may have seen the crystals. Have you seen there,
yeah.
Buttala?
In
No,
but
I mean some bunches of crystal.
yes.
Yeah,
Yes, yes,
yeah.
yes.
There are some bunches of crystals of corundum, right?
Yes,
Buttala.
yes.
So that is big size also.
Big
And if you
size.
go to Mathale region, you will see huge fluorite and
Yes.
also some big what Amazonite and topaz, huge ones, big ones. Okay,
Yeah.
they are little different from those what you get from the Ratnapura area.
Yeah.
The Ratnapura stones are mainly rounded and some tone and worn texture is there, right? Appearance, because I mean not all the stones I am referring to,
Yeah.
but what my explanation is that there are some changes, as you also observed. Some of you may have noticed that some of the stones are different from place to place, or area to area. Some are very nicely crystalled, and some are showing some non-good crystal shapes that we call them anhedral. Technically, we call them anhedral type of crystals, anhedral minerals or anhedral type of crystals. If you have the perfect crystal shapes, then you call it euhedral crystals. And if you have the crystals in uh, to some extent with good crystal phases or shapes, then you call it subhedral, right? So these euhedral, subhedral, and anhedral types of crystals are available in different areas, and also that is controlled by the lithology or the rock types as well, right? Where whether you get corundum or whether you get topaz or spinel uh, is mainly controlled by the rock type. So actually, not maybe not the prevailing rock type, the rock type that you are having now or today is not a factor for that probably, but the previous rock types, actually the previous rock types, that means the rocks which were existing some millions of years ago, some hundreds of million years, or at least 500 million years ago, right? But the current rock types that you have in the different areas will also result giving different types of gems in the future, and also some cases in the present as well, because you can see some fractured or disintegrated rocks, weathered rocks will provide some in situ gem crystallization. For example, you can do the mining on the rock itself. We call it hard rock mining. Hard rock mining. That means on the rock, you just with a hammer, you can mine the crystals if they are big enough, right? In South India, there is a special area actually in South India called Karur region, Kerala state. They are doing in massive scales hard rock mining. That means they have very huge crystals, big corundum like even corundum, spinel, and garnet. They are mining manually by just using a hammer, right? That is
Professor,
yeah.
Professor, are these all the primary deposits?
Well, those are the ones that you can mine with the hard rock mining is those are primary. Most of the good crystal shaped ones are also primary. Even in Sri Lanka, like the very nicely shaped crystals that you can find as clusters or huge ones that I referred in Buttala and Matale region, they are primary. Primary means actually they are products of a magma. That is what you call the pegmatites, pegmatitic magmas. Okay, pegmatites will give you primary deposit, but in the ones which you have in the secondary deposits, those are not primary. Those are secondary type of minerals. Do you see my screen now? I don't see it is shared.
Yes, Professor, we can see it, but it's on like you can what do you call that? Put it into full screen. It's
You can see my.
not in full screen.
Okay, yeah. Now.
Yeah, now it's great.
Okay, okay. Because I cannot clearly see this one. Okay, right. So anyway, it's good that you had some preliminary idea about the differences in the stones that you find in different areas. Actually, that is controlled by lithology, whether it is primary or secondary, right? So this thing can be referred to the changes in lithology. Lithology means, I think you know already, lithology means rock types, right? Different rock types. So in Sri Lanka, we have different rock types. So we will study about the rock types available in Sri Lanka for the time being, but not in very great details, because all the geological aspects you may not need, but some basic understanding is required. Therefore, we will study about the geology of Sri Lanka as well under this course. So we will see first some overview of geological background of Sri Lanka. uh, Geological background of Sri Lanka, and there you can see we have a small crustal fragment. You learned about the crust already. We have a small crustal fragment. It's just 65,660 square kilometers, right? It is very strategically important as well as geologically important, because the Sri Lanka was the crustal fragment of Sri Lanka was located in the central part of the Gondwana, in the central part of the Gondwana. So therefore, it's very important. Okay, right. So we were in the central part of the Gondwana. So I will refer you with the Gondwana figure later on. So our crust was located in the central part of the Gondwana. So that is actually the central region where the West Gondwana and the East Gondwana collided. West Gondwana and the East Gondwana collided was that place. Okay, the setting. So our basement, we call the basement. Basement means the crustal part of the country. Okay, the basement means actually the hard rock terrain. Hard rock terrain. So when I say this one, you can think of the extreme north and the northwestern sides, where some strips like a belt like area, for example, put from Puttalam to Jaffna, approximately towards Jaffna, and little bit towards the eastern side also, has a strip of sedimentary rocks, right? Has a strip of sedimentary rocks. That's why in Jaffna you don't see hard rocks like what we see in other areas of the country. So actually the basement means the entire rigid rock layer that we have. But later on the top of this rigid rock layer, some sedimentary deposits have been placed. So that is why you have some thin or narrow sedimentary rock basement from Puttalam to Jaffna region. Apart from that, we have very solid rocks in the other parts, because those rocks are metamorphic. Okay, so I think you know already igneous rocks, metamorphic rocks, and sedimentary rocks, right? So out of these three types of rocks, sedimentary rocks are the softest ones. So they are just deposited on a low-lying basin, and sediments are deposited on that basin. For example, if the marine environment was there, precipitation from seawater can create some rock layers. For example, precipitations of calcium carbonate from marine animals, creatures, right? Shells. These are chemically deposited. And these deposits, throughout some hundreds of million years, they get accumulated and get bonded with each other with these minerals by some cements, naturally occurring cements, like some silicate and some phosphate bearing things, right? They can be bounded together, right? And then they become, these loose sediments become some rigid rocks. But actually these rigid rocks are softer than the metamorphic rocks that you have in the basement, because these sedimentary type of rocks, if you make them available in a subduction zone also, they will be taken towards the deep interior, and with them being subducted, are subjected to high temperature and pressure conditions. So the minerals which were available and the textures which were available at the shallow low-lying basin, in the marine basin, becomes changed. That means they will undergo some mineralogical as well as textural change. Mineralogical change means the mineral can be converted into a different mineral. Or the same mineral can be there, but structural arrangement would be changing, different. So it becomes more robust. It converts into a more robust form, right? For example, graphite changes into diamond-like. So such kind of variation can be available. Calcite can be changed into aragonite, right? Like that. Not only that, textural change will also be there. Textural change means the texture from a rock means the mutual the grain sizes, shape, and mutual arrangement of constituting minerals. Right? That means whether the rock is soft or hard means two textures. Soft rock is having a different texture than hard rock. So in the subduction process, what happens is the rocks are converted texturally as well. So that means they become more harder, more robust rocks. So that is what you call the metamorphism. So then the sedimentary rocks which are available at a basin, marine or land basin, becomes metamorphic. That means they are changing their morphology or the shape and mineralogy, everything, texture and mineralogy basically. So therefore, more robust metamorphic rocks are produced. But the deposits that you see in the northwestern part and the northern part of Sri Lanka have not subjected to subduction or any other tectonic process yet, right? But in the future, if our country was moved to a subduction zone, because the plate motion is continuing, so with the plate motion, we can also be drifted to any place where a subduction can take place, right? Actually, now we are moving towards northeastern side. That means towards the Himalayan side, where both collisions are continental type, right? We learned it, continental type, the Indo-Australian plate and Eurasian plate. So therefore, there is no subduction zone right now. But in the future, once this collision completes, and if rifting and some other splitting occurs, there can be opening of oceans in that region as well. And our country could also be joining with such oceanic creation places, basins, and maybe new subduction zone will be generated in the northern Indian side, right? So in that case, somehow our rocks will also be subducted again, and the already metamorphosed rocks can also be remetamorphosed. At the same time, the unmetamorphosed or the sedimentary cover that we have in the northwestern part or the northern part can be converted into metamorphic rocks, right? So likewise, because this is a cyclic process, this can happen in the future. But what you see in the southern part of the country, southern means except for the extreme northwest and northern region, already metamorphosed rocks. That means in the past, we have been subducted. We have been subducted and then collided. And as a result of this final collision, we have these all mountains and all these morphology has generated. So anyway, we will have this type of geological history, and in the future also we will have some geological processes undergoing. So anyway, currently, according to the current situation, 90%, it's about 90% of the Sri Lankan rocks are underlain by metamorphic rocks. Our crust is made of metamorphic rocks for 90%. So the rest near Hello, sorry, there was another again disturbance, but I hope now you can hear me. Right. What we were talking about is 90% of the rocks are underlain by high grade metamorphic rocks. So we will. Can you hear me all?
Yes, Professor.
Okay, sure. Right. So we will talk about this high grade thing later on. I think you haven't learned about the grade of metamorphism, right? But you learned about the rocks. I heard. Do you know about high grade? Any idea? High grade and low grade. Anything you learned with Dr. Dharmapreet? No. Okay, we will talk about the high grade low grade thing later on, but just for the time being, you keep in mind that our rocks are underlain by metamorphic rocks. Okay, so metamorphic rocks, we have the metamorphic rocks all in our crustal fragment, and the remaining part is nearly 10%, nearly 10% of sedimentary rocks. Okay, the sedimentary rocks, so is almost like 9%. Like we can consider another 1% as having igneous rocks, right? We also have some igneous rocks as well, but very little content only, right? Not very much, but we have only a little amount of igneous rocks. So the one that I informed you about the in relation to the gem deposits as pegmatites, right? These pegmatites are also one type of igneous rock, right? These pegmatites are also one type of igneous rock. And can anybody tell me another type of igneous rock that we have in our country? Can anyone tell me about igneous rock that we have in our country? Maybe you have heard some names of igneous rocks. Yes. Have you heard of granite? You know granite?
Yes.
Yes, granites are igneous rocks. Actually, we have a limited number of granites available in the country. So we will see where they are located. We have some very minute amount of granites as well. Okay, but major amount is entirely metamorphic rocks. So if we consider about the history of the geology of Sri Lanka, you can think of a person called Ananda Kumarasamy, Dr. Ananda Kumarasamy. He was an artist. Maybe you know him by his skills of art, right? He was an artist, but at the same time, He was a very good mineralogist. He was the first mineralogist to find to explore Sri Lankan basement. Okay, so in 1902, right, 1902, he started investigating about the mineralogy of some of the rocks of in Sri Lanka. So he has a publication he authored by him in 1902. He was the first person who was contributing to the geological survey department at that time. He contributed to that as well, but you know, at that time Sri Lanka was still under colonial administration. But anyway, he was the first to investigate the geology of Sri Lanka. Right? Basically, he was studying about the minerals of Sri Lanka. So we consider him as the father of geology of Sri Lanka, because he was the first pioneer to find the some aspects of geology of Sri Lanka. Then we had some detailed investigation as the geology of Ceylon, right? That time Ceylon, in 1929 by a person called Adams, right? He was a foreigner, foreign scientist. So he first drafted the first colored geological map of the country, right? So it was actually it was a preliminary type of a map, but at that time it was the first anyway the geological map. And then the regional description of geology of Sri Lanka was done by oh sorry, there's a spelling mistake here. It is not coast, but it is Coates, right? TS should be there, right? Coates 1935. So he first tried to classify the rocks of Sri Lanka, because you know there are different types of rocks. So based on their mineralogical and textural differences, he started some initial classification of these rocks. So we call our rock unit as the Precambrian sometimes, Precambrian unit. So this term Precambrian is coming with respect to the geological time scale, right? You know, if any rock is older than 550 million years or 500 million years, more than 500 million years of age, then you can call it a Precambrian rock, because the Precambrian is a period of the geological history or the geological time scale. So the first classification was based on the textures and minerals, Binthanniasis, right? Binthanniasis. That was actually from starting from Mahayangana to southeastern quarter of the country. These gneisses, I think probably you have learned about the gneisses. Gneisses means some type of metamorphic rock which shows some layering, right? Very nicely layered rock you can call a gneiss, right? This is GNEISSES, gneiss. It's a layered rock type, right? So this Binthanna gneiss was named by these early workers based on the regional distribution of that particular area. And then towards the northwestern side, that means starting from west from Anuradhapura and Damulla, the western side, west from that region, Vanni gneisses, right? So that region was called Vanni area, and those rocks were classified as Vanni gneisses. Later on, we changed these things, everything, but that time this was the classification. And then the ones which we have in the Kadugannava up to Aranayaka, and from the Kandy side up to Huluganga region to Teldenia, that region, these the rocks available were classified as Kadugannava gneisses, right? So there were reasons for this classification at that time. Even they have recognized, but now we have a different classification. We'll see that later on. And the other rocks which are available in the Kandy I mean, not the Teldeni region, but from Kandy to Trincomalee, up to Trincomalee, running from Galle to Trincomalee, the central part as a belt was considered as Condylite series and Charnocatic series rocks, or in other words, it was called Central Condylite Charnocaite Belt. That was the classification. So this Condylite means it's a type of a rock. We will see that one later on. It's a type of a rock, and also Charnocaite is another type of a rock. So these two rocks are very dominant in this the central region, running as a belt, running up to Trincomalee region, right? So therefore, people have classified it, codes at that time, as Central Condylite Charnocaite Belt. Okay, right. So these classification actually they tried to figure out in a map as well. So different maps came out. So you can see here some Bintana gneiss like in this region, right, in the map, and one gneiss in this region, and all this part. Not this is actually this is not the original map. Anyway, I'm just pinpointing some the general locations only. And the Kadugannawa gneisses were like this, and this Charnocaite Condylite series was running from south to this region, like up to Trincomalee, like, right? So broadly, they were classifying this region as the Charnocaite Condylite belt, and this part as the Bintana gneisses, and this part as the Vanni gneisses, and this tiny narrow part as a Kadugannawa gneisses, right? That was the preliminary classification at the very beginning. But later on, this classification was further evolved, and different classifications came out. So I will give you the references as well later on, references that were taken in for this compilation of these new maps, and these ones are kind of different derivations of the geology of Sri Lanka. And the great details I'm not going to give you, because we are no longer using this classification, this particular classification. And this is another one. So different rock units are marked like this, right? Different rock units are marked like this. But anyway, from the very beginning, people have identified this limestone or the sedimentary rock layer that I mentioned at the extreme north and the northwest part, right? So this region is entirely sedimentary. They are not made of metamorphic or igneous rocks, right? So only the remaining part, like this part, is composed of metamorphic rocks. So that's why we call more than 90%, or at least 90% of Sri Lankan rocks are metamorphic. Only this particular tiny or narrow band is composed of sedimentary rocks. So here and there, in different places, we can see some some igneous rocks as well, like granites, and in addition to that, some pegmatites are also found here and there in different places, but those are not at very large scale. Therefore, we consider them as a very minor lithology type, right? So the existing classification, what we have now, is a little more or less similar to this figure, but actually it is also different, right? Because the difference is at the early cases, at the very early situation, the Bintana gneiss and Vanni gneisses and all, they were changed to some other terms, some other terminology. This part, this dark gray color region was termed as Eastern Vijayan complex, right? Eastern Vijayan complex, and this part was called Western Vijayan complex, right? So Eastern Vijayan complex, even here you have Eastern Vijayan complex, Western Vijayan complex, okay? And the Central Highlands was there as a single unit at that time, but later on, again, this classification was changed. Here, what happened was Eastern Vijayan Complex was just termed as Vijayan Complex, and then the Western Vijayan Complex was termed as Vanni Complex, right? The central highlands were still there uh, as it is a highland series. So the central part was termed as highland series. So this part was termed as highland series, right? And then later on, again in 1990s, extensive investigations of geology of Sri Lanka was done with the help of the German and Japanese collaborating teams. So they did, I think, more than 5 years investigations of the entire country. But at that time, actually, there was a political situation was not good in the northern and extreme north eastern part because of terrorist activities. So therefore, except for this northern and eastern parts, of course, in the northern part, you have the sedimentary rocks, so there is no much issue on that. But in the eastern part, the metamorphic rocks are there. From Vaticlo, from Ampara to up to Trincomalee, right? So except for those regions, all the other parts, most of the other parts were uh, heavily explored by these Japanese and German teams, and they came up with a more detailed classification, but the complexes were not very much different, but the lithological types, descriptions, mineralogy, and age dating, chemistry, geochemistry, and everything were in very, very detailed, right? So they came up with the classification here as the Miocene limestone, the limestone, which is younger than the metamorphic rocks, right? Because that was known actually from the early history, because the fossils and the remaining animals in fossils can be used as a date indicator as well, right? Because in the history, people know this particular animal has been found in that era, that period, or like that, right? So we had some trilobite, like some different types of some shells, seashells, fossils. So based on that, people have understood that this extreme north and northwestern part of these sedimentary rocks, mainly limestone bearing rock layers, are of the age of Miocene times, like up to 60 million years, right? It's not very old. So even though it's 60 million years, geologically it's very, very young, right? We consider it as a very recent period, very, very recent period, because the other part of the country is entirely of Precambrian. That means more than 500 million years, right? So therefore, this north and northwestern part is young, very young. It's from today, it's like 60 million years maximum, right? That is what you call the Miocene to Quaternary uh, time. Those are the time scales that you have in the geological time scale. I'm not going to do the geological time scale here because you have some background there, and also you have to read and get some knowledge about the periods. Okay, Archean times, Proterozoic, Cambrian, Precambrian, then Jurassic, Miocene, Quaternary, recent, and present day, like that, right? So the time periods, how many years ago you call it Quaternary, or how many years ago you call it Precambrian, like that, you should have a fair knowledge so that it will be easy for you to keep these things in mind, right? So separately, you as extra reading, so you can read them in textbooks as well as the other references, including internet, uh, regarding these aspects. Okay, and then coming back to the classification, I mentioned that this part was termed as Vanni complex, and this part was termed as Vijayan complex, and this central part was termed as Highland series. As with the result of these German and Japanese investigations, people came up with more detailed classifications and more detailed reasons for these naming of these rock units based on the age as well as the rock types and also structures, right? Previously, at the history, they have been considering only rock types, mineralogy, and structural relationships. But now later on in 1995, by 1994 or 5, they understood about the geochronology as well. Very detailed investigations in Japan and Germany, because we don't have any facilities. You need mass spectrometers, right? ICP-MS and other equipment. There are some special instruments we use for age dating, particularly mass spectrometers. That means using the isotopes of minerals, we can determine the ages of rocks. So anyway, with those information, extra details, the people classified the terrain as the Vanni complex and Vijayan complex, and this part was termed as Central Granulite Belt. Central Granulite Belt was the name given at that time, 1995, instead of Highland series. Instead of Highland series, what they gave was Central Granulite Belt. So this granulite, the term granulite, we will learn about this thing later on. Probably you may have learned under metamorphic rocks, granulite, with the grade. That's why I mentioned, I said that we will come back to this low grade, high grade later on. I will teach you about this granulite and grades with the diagram later on. Okay, the, the highest temperature refers this grade anyway. So for the time being, okay. So high temperature rocks are available in the central part. So that's why they are called granulites. So they were termed as a Central Granulite Belt. And within this Vijayan complex, this eastern part, this Vijayan complex, people came up with some Highland complex remnants, some relics of Highland complex rocks, which are characteristically different from Vijayan rocks. So therefore, they separately mapped them as windows, right? We call it windows, or some narrow regions. There are some technical other terms as well, clips or naps, right? Clips or naps, we call them, right? Because they are separated from the main complex, but now they are just penetrating within another type of a complex. So such type of areas we call as windows. So these ones are very characteristic with the Highland series rocks at that time. So therefore, they actually these are located in Buttala and Belihulloy region, and also Katharagama region. Okay, this is Buttala and this is Katharagama, and this one is called Kudawai, right? It's in south of Tanomalville, in the southeastern part. So anyway, they are having characteristics of this Highland series rocks. So that was the classification came up with very detailed investigations, and this was published in 1994 volume of Precambrian Research Journal. That's a very famous journal in the earth science, among the earth science people. So there were so many papers came up. There was a special issue for Sri Lanka as well, right? Some bunches of papers came out with respect to different aspects as a result of those investigations at that time. That is the 1994 volume of Precambrian research, number 66 volume. So that was the most detailed classification came up, but later on, this classification was again changed due to some reasons, especially with respect to the international terminologies, because most of the rock terrains in the world are termed as a term called complex. So therefore, for the Central Highland Belt, or the Central Granulite Belt, which was termed like that at that time, was also changed as the Highland Complex, right? At the very beginning, it was Highland series, right? But not exactly these boundaries. These boundaries were changed later on. You can see the boundary changes with respect to these maps, right? So that's why we call it evolution of the Sri Lankan geology. But now we use the Highland complex, Vijayan complex, Vanni complex as the terminology, right? We term them as the terminology, and this small terrain with the previously people termed as Kadugannava Nices, right? I mentioned that starting from Aranayaka to Huluganga, up to Huluganga, like in Teldenia region, right? That is in this region. So we term it as Kadugannawa complex. Okay, we termed it as Kadugannawa complex because that is having some different lithological features compared to the other complexes, right? So they are different from Vanni complex and also different from Highland complex, but actually they have some similarities with the Vanni complex rocks, although we separate it out as a small different complex. Some geologists prefer to classify it under the Vanni complex. So in some geology maps, you might not see this Kadugannawa complex as a separate complex. So some geologists would like to include it within the Vanni complex as a part of it, right? Without showing like this, because there are some similarities with the Vanni complex, but not 100% similar. So therefore, some other geologists would like to see it as a separate complex, right? Actually, there are reasons supporting that those two ideas. So anyway, it doesn't matter. You can show it or not show it. It doesn't matter. But the main three other complexes are very, very different from each other: Vanni complex, Highland complex, and Vijayan complex. Right, so this Miocene to Quaternary means the age of the sedimentary rocks. Actually, this belt was initially up from was starting from Puttalama region, but later on they have extended it up to Nigambu side. Actually, even up to Colombo, near to Colombo region, because people have found some sedimentary deposits in that region as well. So in addition to those sedimentary rocks, actually, there are some very, very small basins we call Tabbova, Andigama, and Pallama. Right? These three locations have some sedimentary basins. Sedimentary basins means this Miocene to Quaternary type of basins are there in this region, but within the Vanni complex. So, you know, it's like here, Kudavoya, Kathragama, and Buttala. I mentioned them as windows, right? As windows. Like that, there are some basins here, but actually these are not basins. These are mountain type exposures, but these are basins. So that indicates some sedimentation has happened at the same time during this Vanni complex. I mean, on top of this Vanni complex. Actually, this sedimentary terrain is also on top of this Vanni complex. So if you remove this sedimentary terrain, you might be exposing the remaining part of the Vanni complex. So it's a very thick sequence. So therefore, it's not a easy task to see the underlying rock unit, because some few kilometers may be there below the thickness of this. So if you go to Puttalam region, and if you happen to go to this place where the cement factory is there, right, Aruakkaru cement factory is there, you can see huge mountains of reddish type of reddish color soil, right? We call red soils. Actually, those are also belonging to this sedimentary formation, right? They are not limestones, but they are iron-rich sand and soil type of deposit, which is also some tens of meters thick. Some 100-meter thick areas are also there. So beyond that, you should see some sedimentary rocks in that region as well. So anyway, this part is sedimentary, and this is a metamorphic, and all the three units are metamorphic from there to here. And that's why we term still that our terrain, mostly about 90% of the terrain is composed of metamorphic rocks. So there are some igneous rocks, as I mentioned, here and there. For example, if you go to Maatale region, you will see some pegmatites, right? And likewise, sporadic type of pegmatites and some granitic exposures are there. For example, some granite is here, around somewhere here, some granite is there, and there is another granite available in the region where you have in somewhere in this region. Okay, we call what is that region? towards Anamadu side. Sorry, I forgot the name. I will remember it and let you know later on. Okay, it's a granite exposure. It's a more very characteristic granite, more pinkish type granite. So why that pink color has there is because it is composed of entirely potassium bearing feldspars. Potassium bearing feldspars. It has been exposed in that region. Okay, so therefore we have some very limited number of granites available. And sorry, now I remember the Thornigala. That region is called Thornigala. Okay, Thornigala granite. Thornigala granite was the one that we have as a fairly big granite exposure compared to the other granites which are available in that region. So anyway, more than exactly 90%. It's not incorrect if we mention that it is as 20. It is as 90% because more 10% will count all these sediments plus igneous exposures. That means granitic and pegmatitic exposures. Okay, so as I mentioned, these complexes are named by as these terms like Highland complex. You have Highland complex, and then Vanni complex and Vijayan complex. With that tiny unit which we call the Kadugannawa complex, Okay, Kadugannawa complex. So as I mentioned, with the help of German and Japanese scientists, this classification was based, and there you can see something called neodymium modulages, right? I'm not going to explain these ones because it's beyond your content or syllabus, and also if it happens for you to be very much interested in that geochronology part, you can learn about these things separately. And that is what you call the age dating, right? So these came from these studies mainly. Actually, not only these two studies, but the studies which initiated at that time, nearly 1990. Actually, it started in 1987 initiation, and then later on it was the peak time, that was 1990 to 1995, right? These foreign investigations. So these lithological, structural, and crustal relationships, that means rock types variations, mineralogical variations, and also structural variations. So structural means the way the rocks are distributed. That means some rocks are bending, folding, faulting, like there are displacing, shearing. There are different aspects. So these aspects are common in some regions. So therefore, we can use those structural features as well to understand differences in these crustal units, because these crustal units were at different places at the time of their origin. Right? Later on only they came to amalgamate into one terrain like, right? So that means this Vanni complex was in a separate place, Highland complex was in a separate place, Vijayan complex was in a separate place. So they have different crustal histories, independent crustal histories. But at 550 million years ago, that is the formation of Gondwana terrain, these collisions were caused for these different fragments to be connected together, right? They were like welded, right? It's a continental collision means it's a type of a welding of crustal plates, right? It's a process of welding of crustal plates. So these welding regions uh, can be used as designators for the boundaries. For example, this boundary is demarcated with respect to these structural features. Okay, with respect to these structural features, people have demarcated these crustal boundaries, right? But you can see here the boundary between the Vanni complex and the Highland complex, you have some question marks, right? See, along the boundary you have question marks, right? So what does it mean? It means that this boundary is still uncertain. That means it is not clear yet, right? But this boundary, the Vijayan and Highland boundary, is very clear. So therefore, you can see the continuous line is there without any mark because you can identify it even in the field, right? It's not just the rock type difference. You can even see structurally, right? Some morphological differences, geomorphological differences are also there. When you go from Kandy to this region, for example, if you are traveling from Kandy to eastern side, particular, you will definitely feel some difference in between here. For example, if you are crossing the 18 bends, right, hairpin bends, the Hatavangu in Mahiyangan, that is exactly the boundary at the bound. So you are declining, you are climbing down along a huge, steep morphological escarpment, morphological change, right? So that is a boundary actually. So physically you can see that boundary in Sri Lanka at that region, and that means along somehow there are some indication of this boundary even in the field. That means even physically you can identify. But for the Vanni side, you can't see. Even if you travel from Trincomalee to Anuradhapura, you will never feel any difference. I mean, there are no such structural difference you physically feel, right? So if you go from Dambulla to Kurunagala, right, you will not feel any difference structurally, physically, right? But when you travel from Kandy to Kurunagala, you will pass some areas where you have some structural differences. For example, if you pass Galagedara, you will understand you are changing your position, you are changing your structural position, the morphological aspects as well, right? So that is the boundary between Kadugannawa complex and the Vanni complex. So that can be taken as a boundary. So that's why some people like to use this Kadugannawa complex as a separate unit, right? Although some rock types which are having inside the Kadugannawa complex has some similarities with the Vanni complex rocks. So therefore, some geologists argue that this should be a part of Vanni complex itself. But at least for the boundary itself, people can use that structural feature around the northwest part of the Kandy region only, right? If you can determine a boundary between the Vanni complex and the Kandy and the Highland complex, you can demarcate it in only around this region because there is some structural change. But other parts, for example, if you travel from Kandy or this region to Colombo region, you will not see much difference in the boundary, right? I mean, physically you can't find a boundary there, right? Unlike the other places which I already mentioned. So therefore, still geologists consider that this boundary is uncertain. This boundary is uncertain. Okay. So therefore, people have considered this classification as almost complete now, except for this location or the demarcation of this particular boundary between the Vanni and the Highland complexes. Okay, so this is the story behind the rock units which we have in Sri Lanka. But we haven't explored them in detail because we have to know about the rock types which are available in Vanni complex and which are available in Highland complex, and those are available in the Vijayan complex, etc. With respect to their petrological, that means the how these rocks were formed, pressure, temperature conditions, ages, geochronology, and the mineral compositions, like that, right? So there are such differences as well. But this is the basic introduction about the geological classification of the rock units. We call this lithotectonic classification of the Sri Lankan basement, which is now internationally accepted, the classification. So if you use any international literature regarding Sri Lankan geology, mostly you will see this classification. Okay. So any question up to now? If you have any question, you can ask now regarding this content, what we have been talking about.
Sir, is there any gem deposits in Vijayan complex?
Actually, the gem deposits are there. So you know the Buttala region. It's actually the boundary anyway. Gem deposits are located not as many as those in the highland complex, but very tiny deposits associated with these boundaries are available. Not exactly in the core regions of the Vijayan complex, but in these regions, as you know, some Buttala, around Buttala, compared those regions, you may have some indications of gems, but not as abundant as those are available in the highland complex. So there may be reasons for that, because I said that these complexes were originated at different places. So it means they were originated at different places means they were subjected to different pressure, temperature conditions at the time of their genesis. So the crustal depths the rocks were formed maybe not sufficient for these gems to be formed. So when we considered about the crustal aspects about the earth structure, we were talking about the requirements for a gemstone to be generated, right? Some special geological conditions we mentioned, right? High temperature conditions or high pressure conditions, like that. But actually, although you don't see abundant corundum like gem varieties in the Vijayan complex, but still you have some gem varieties. For example, uh, uh, the one tourmaline variety, tourmaline variety was found from Sri Lanka for the first time in the world, and I think probably you may know that particular variety, which is calcium rich tourmaline variety, and boron rich. You know already boron is rich in tourmaline. Calcium rich tourmaline variety was found at some of these marginal regions in the boundary, and which was belonging to mostly Vijayan region, like here, right? Has anyone aware of? I mean, is there anybody knows about this particular tourmaline variety? It's now
Which color is it? Like,
sorry, I didn't get you.
which color is it? Like those tourmalines?
No, tourmaline color. That the color is
No, I
normal,
mean,
colorless, normal color of the tourmaline, but it's chemically it's different. It's a
okay.
calcium variety, because you know with the composition of these gem varieties, you have different types. For example, garnet. If you take garnet, you have iron-rich garnet, calcium-rich garnet, magnesium-rich garnet, right?
Yeah.
Mostly you will see pinkish color for garnet, right? It does not vary much, except for some special color like hessonite in this southeastern part of the country. You have some mountains of hessonite. There were some at that time brownish color. That except for that, and also another exception is the greenish garnet.
Greenish,
Yeah, that is
we have
also,
a few deposits in Sri Lanka.
yes, that's very rare.
Where is, excuse me, where is that location? Like we haven't come across that kind of term.
Tourmaline, you mean?
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know whether that was heavily mined in a particular region, but the reports, according to the geological reports, it says that particular region, the name was given as a region because of the calcium richness. It is Uva. It's Uva region, right?
Right.
Uva province. There is no special indication about the particular location. But in that region, in the Badulla region, I'm sure from starting from Badulla to this southeastern part of the country, this was reported. That is actually calcium-rich tourmaline variety. It was named as after this recognition from Uva region. The name has given as U white, right? So if you happen to find a mineral called oovite, that is originating from Sri Lanka. I mean, discovered from Sri Lanka, right? So that is a calcium-rich tourmaline. Okay, and I think the one rare gem variety which was found by a Sri Lankan probably gemologist long time ago. Also from that region, I think that is a person's name is Ekanayaka. So what is the gem?
Aconite.
Yeah, that is a aconite, right? So yeah, that is a very rare gemstone, as you know.
Excuse me, sir. I have another question. Like, when it's come to this Kirinda area,
Mhm.
right? When you walk on the it's Kirinda area in the sea, it's bit of the sea. Like,
Yeah,
you
the
will
North Sea.
find lot of moonstone kind of stones. Is that a
Ah,
moonstone
yeah.
or a you easily find lot of moonstone very small sizes?
Mm-hmm.
And is that a moonstone or a different kind of gem variety?
No, I think it's a moonstone. It's moonstone means feldspar. It's a variety of feldspar, isn't it? It's a plagioclase type gem variety.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Is it coming under Vijayan complex or
Well, if it is found in the Kirinda, that is coming under Vijayan complex. It's Vijayan. Yeah, Kirinda, it's somewhere here. It belongs to the Vijayan complex.
because you will easily find in the beach
Yeah,
like
because now we are exposing it in the beach because of this ocean or the sea erosion. Most of these rocks are get weathered easily compared to the inland regions. So therefore, whatever the minerals which were available in the rock is easily getting exposed in that region. So that's the reason. And one more thing is, I mentioned that although in the core regions of the Vijayan complex does not contain considerable amount of gems, uh, all these things are more or less concentrated along close to the boundary of the Highland Vijayan region. There is a reason for that as well, because this Highland Vijayan boundary is a high temperature type of a thrust zone. Thrusting, you understand thrusting, right? When two crustal fragments are rubbed against each other, there's a huge frictional heat is generated, and there are a lot of melting and other things are happening. So therefore, it is a favorable situation for these particular minerals to crystallize. So that's why some gem varieties are available along close to, at least close to the boundary as well. Okay, so that is another thing. Even hessonite, you can find a huge hessonite varieties found in this region, right? The brownish type of garnet close to Buttala region. Some mountains like that means they were originally some other minerals, probably during the metamorphism they were converted into these varieties, because metamorphism is always a process which increase temperature and pressure conditions. Particularly in our context, in our regions, collision was the main main cause for, or the main process for the metamorphism that causes high temperature conditions. So these high temperature conditions uh, are favorable, very favorable for elemental transport within mineralogical scales, within mineral scales. So therefore, these iron, magnesium, calcium, manganese, like major elements, they are easily transported from one side to another. So therefore, these elemental transformation or the elemental transition can enhance the formation of different varieties of minerals. And we know this being garnet like minerals, we call them as a special type of a group of minerals, which we term them as solid solutions. Solid solution means, solution, you understand, solution is something like liquid, right? mixing some. If you make sugar in water, you can call it a sugar solution, right? But these ones, solid solution means they are not liquid, right? In other words, elements are mixed under solid state conditions. That's why we call them solid solutions. So this elemental transformation or elemental transition causes these minerals to change their composition and convert into different forms. So that is another chemical or the kinetic process which take place in genesis of these minerals. So anyway, based on these lithological differences also, you can see some variation in distribution of these minerals. But of course, if we can expose the most interior part of the Vijayan complex even, right? So that means now the rocks are fresh enough, but they are not easily weathering because they are not exposed into weathering agents like acid rains or whatever. But the regions like Kirinda, as you mentioned, that is always exposed to the sea. So therefore, this weathering process is more rapid in this coastal region. So therefore, these minerals are easily exposed, and also because of their resistance to weathering, they are remaining among other easily weathered products like like feldspars, the other feldspars and other types of minerals like iron-rich minerals. They are escaping this weathering process. So therefore, you can easily find them in with the beach sand or with the soil around that region. But if you can weather this core region even, probably you might encounter some mineral or gem varieties in the future, probably some millions of years later, not now. That's similar to the gems you find in this Ratnapura or other regions. Those gems were part of the metamorphic rocks some hundreds of millions ago, right? But now only you see them as a result of weathering over a period of 100 million years or more than that, right? So that's why you find them in rivers, river basins, among the sand or soil. Okay, any other question?
So I have a small question. Like when it comes to like at the beginning, you said like we are at the center of Gondwana.
Yeah.
Like so, like do we find any boundaries of those parts? I mean, like Western Gondwana and the other part. Like,
Yes.
can we find any boundaries?
Actually, yeah, it's a good question. The boundary is located not in our country. It is exactly located in Mozambique, in the East African continent. That is the exact boundary. You will encounter that when I show you the Gondwana figure later on. But we were also very close to that boundary. But being a very tiny country, we don't see that much of a boundary zone. But we still recognize the Mozambique is a part. I mean, this highland complex is a part of that Mozambique boundary zone, right? So this is the boundary. If we consider this is the boundary, if we consider it in very detail, so this will be the boundary of the Gondwana.
Okay.
Yeah.
And sir, I have another question. This is a bit of out of this topic.
Okay.
Like when it comes to Mozambique and Sri Lanka, is there any time differential? I mean, like when you do the carbon dating, do you get any different times? Like
Well, from carbon dating, you can't get the ages of metamorphic rocks because the half-life of carbon is very short. Okay, so you can measure up archaeological things using the carbon dating, because archaeological things are like some thousands of years, not millions of years. Okay, so therefore we can use carbon dating, but other isotopes, as I mentioned, for example here, neodymium, other elements are there. Their half-life is very, very long, some billions of years half-life. So therefore we can measure using those isotopes, zircon, uranium, lead like isotopes. And the age is more or less similar. It's a good question also.
actually,
Even
sir.
Mozambique is also 550 million years, and ours is also 550 million years. Actually, this 550 million years refers not the exact age of that particular rock. That is the age of metamorphism. That is the age of conversion of this particular rock into the current configuration.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Actually,
The
sir,
protolith, the
yeah,
parent materials that were contributed to these rocks are much more older than that. That means about 1,500 or 2,500 million years, like that. Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Actually, like the main reason I came up with this, like
Yeah.
when it comes to stones, what we get in Madagascar and Sri Lanka,
Yeah.
like those are the same stones, but when it comes to the inclusion wise, there is a difference. So
Yeah.
that's how we differentiate it. So I just thought whether if
Okay.
these two has been developed in two different ages, that might be the case.
Okay. So that, yeah, but mostly the ages are similar. But you know, the tectonic
Slightly different.
situations may be slightly different, because all Gondwana is a huge continent, huge supercontinent. It's a collection of continent. You can feel the largeness of a continent, but when it comes to 5-6 continents together, we can't even feel the largeness of that continent, right? Yeah, the
Exactly.
tectonic processes are so broad in that scale. So therefore, tectonically, there may be, process-wise, there may be changes, so that these inclusions are incorporated in some stones, but not in some other stones, like that. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Right. So this is the this is the history regarding this content. I mean the context of the lithotectonic classification, the history of the geological classification, and now we will briefly see some aspects regarding the complexes themselves. Like Highland complex, we'll take the Highland complex. So as you already know, it is running across the center of the island from southwest to the northeast region, right? From southwest to northeast, that means along like this, right? In a direction like that. It is composed of, we call the granulite facies rocks. So this one I have to teach you separately what is granulite facies, but for the time being, you can remember that granulite facies represents the highest temperature rocks. Okay, so the temperature conditions are high. If you have a granulite, means that rock has formed under very high temperature conditions, the highest temperature conditions. That means in excess of 750 degrees Celsius at the time of their formation. Okay. And the protoliths, we call the protolith, 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 as the parent materials. So for example, you have some sedimentary rocks here, right? I mentioned currently you can go there, and even now today, you can go there and see the sediments there. Okay, some sediments, the materials which were found as sedimentary rocks. And but what we see here is not the ones that you find as sediments, they are metamorphosed. So the parent material some time ago, which were causing these Highland complex rocks, were also like these ones, right? Like sediments, some sediments. So we call them as the protoliths, and some of them are sedimentary, like what we have now in the north and northwestern part, and also some of the fragments were igneous. Okay, igneous means what you see in Thornigala or pegmatite or granite, now you see as igneous rocks. So those were the original materials, but later on they were subjected to higher temperature and pressure conditions during these subductions or collisions. Then they become metamorphic. So therefore we call them metasedimentary and metaigneous. Igneous materials which were transformed into metamorphic rocks, we can call meta-igneous rocks, because their original materials were igneous. In this case, their original materials were sedimentary, so therefore you can call them metasedimentary. Okay, but altogether these two were subjected to metamorphism, therefore we can call them metamorphic rocks. either composing of meta-sedimentary or meta-igneous. Okay. So the quartzites, commonly called Thiruana, okay, these quartzites you can consider as arising from sedimentary rocks, which we call sandstone, right? You understand sandstone. Sometimes when you go to regions like Putlam, the Aruwakkaru region, you have both sandstones and limestones. Limestones are more whitish, which is mostly composed of calcite. That means if you put some acid there, hydrochloric acid, HCl, you will see some bubbles forming. Some bubbling you can see. These bubbles means carbon dioxide, okay, because they have calcium. Calcium means calcium carbonate. But for a sandstone, if you put acid, nothing will happen, because in sandstones what you have basically is quartz. So therefore quartz will not react with HCl and form any gas. So therefore you can easily distinguish limestones and sandstones by putting some acid. Okay. So quartzites are results of sandstones, whereas marble is a result of limestone. So the limestone means calcium carbonate, that is sedimentary. Once it gets metamorphism, it will be converted into marble. Okay, it will be converted into marble when it comes to metamorphism. And then calc silicate means both quartz like materials plus calcite like materials available, both calcium and calcium carbonate and quartz available. So those rocks, when metamorphosed, we call calc silicate rock. So calc means the calcium carbonate part, silicate means the quartz part. Not only quartz, actually feldspar is also there, right? Quartz and feldspar. If it is entirely quartz only, then the rock will convert into a quartzite. That means Thiruana, perfect Thiruana. But if it may contain some feldspars as well, so then you can call it as impure quartzite, pure quartzite and impure quartzite, right? So that is the thing. Even marble, the same situation. When it comes to totally calcium carbonate marble, then you can call it pure marble. Otherwise, impure marble when it is composed of other carbonates as well, like magnesium carbonate. Magnesium carbonate, you know already, generally it is called dolomite. Okay, so normal marble contains dolomites as well. It's a impurity, dolomite, for a calcium carbonate. When you produce lime out of marble or limestone, if you have magnesium component there, the production is not very successful. Okay, the purity is not very good. So therefore, the price of that particular lime may be little bit high priced. The reason is they need more refining technologies or refining processes to make pure lime out of that. Okay, so therefore the marble or the calcite bearing rocks which are available in Matale and Kandy region are different from those available in Balangoda region, right? Balangoda region also you see a lot of marbles are there, but those are more or less pure type. But Kandy region and Matale region, limestone, or actually those are not limestone, although people call it limestone, it's metamorphosed limestone. That is what you call marble. Okay, Kirigarunda marble. And those marbles are magnesium bearing. That means they are not very pure. Okay. And in other types, we have pellitic gneisses. Gneisses, you know already, is a type of rock, metamorphic rock, which has some banding or layering. When you see a rock quarry, if you see some layers, white color layers, black color layers, like that, alternating layers, that is a typical texture of a gneiss rock, right? So pellitic gneiss means the gneisses or the gneissic rocks or the metamorphic rocks produced as a result of sedimentary protoliths. Not only quartz, sandstone or limestone, but other aspects as well, because the sediments can contain various minerals Even garnet can be there in sediments, right? So garnet, already metamorphosed rocks can also contribute to sediments. So these sediments can provide some metamorphosed rocks that we call pellitic rocks or pellitic gneisses if they are banded, right? Otherwise, just pellitic rocks. And then we have another variety that is we call charnockite. Charnockite is a specific rock. Previously, it was considered as sedimentary, meta-sedimentary origin, but now we know those are not meta-sedimentary. There are some meta-sedimentary charnockites as well, but majority of the charnockites which we have in Sri Lanka and the subcontinent are products of magma in igneous type. That means protolith is igneous, so that means meta-igneous. This for a rock to be called charnockite, it needs to have a characteristic mineral called belonging to the pyroxene group. When you learn about minerals, you can learn details later on. These pyroxenes, we have two varieties, orthopyroxene and clinopyroxene. Orthopyroxenes and clinopyroxenes. One of the orthopyroxene varieties there as hypersthene, right? It's a kind of average composition, iron and magnesium almost 50-50, right? So that pyroxene is called hypersthene, and it's a very typical type of variety. Sometimes it's taken as a semi-precious gem as well. When it comes to fresh variety, it's very yellowish. I mean, like honey brown, like straw color, like straw yellow like color in the fresh variety. But when it becomes weathered, on the rock exposures, you can see them as some rusty color, like rust, malakada wage, like just rusty patches you can see in some rocks. That is hypersthene. Such hypersthene bearing rocks are characteristically known as charnockites, but it's a different or special variety of rocks. Actually, when you consider the mechanical properties of these different types of rocks, engineering properties are very, very high in charnockite. Charnockite is the strongest rock in terms of engineering properties or physical properties. In addition, when the rocks like granites, right? You know granites, the tiles that you find in your kitchen, right? Those are pure igneous rocks, right? So those igneous rocks, when metamorphosed, we have a metamorphic rock called granitoid. So that granitoid, you can call metagranitoid as well, the same rock variety. Those are also another type of rocks which we have in the highland complex. And again, we have granitic gneisses. That means they are not exactly granites, but they are layered type of rock which has a very like granite-like appearance. So normal quarrying people or normal average people call them also as granites because it looks like granite, but granite is actually not a layered rock. It's a igneous rock which does not have layering. If you see a layered structure in a granite type, granite looking rock, it's a actually granitic gneiss. It's not a igneous rock. It should be a metamorphic rock, but the protolith or the parent material should be a granite. So these are the main types of rocks which we have in the highland complex. And one more type of rock is there which can be considered as one of the pellitic gneisses. I think previously also I mentioned that is condylite. Okay, condylite, K-H-O-N. Okay, condylite, K-H is there. Condylite belt. You remember at the very beginning we mentioned about some rock types somewhere. I think I can remember. Yeah, here condylite series, right? This is a dominant rock type which we have in the highland complex under pellitic gneisses, right? Charnockite and condylite. In addition to marble, calc-silicate, quartzite-like ones, under pellitic rocks, you can take this condylite as well. Okay, it's a specific rock which contains sillimanite, a mineral called sillimanite. Sometimes people use it as a stone for ornamental purposes. It's a needle-like mineral. It's a very nice, very beautiful. It's like a bunch of needles, right? Some rocks you can see very huge crystals of such sillimanites available in our Sri Lankan rocks, even some centimeter scale, few centimeters big sillimanite bunches you can see. So those are condylite. Specifically, we term them as condylite because this is a local type of a term. In the global scenario, people don't know when you call condylite. Only Sri Lankan and Indian people know, because in India also you have the same type of variety. So it came from India actually. I mean, the name, this condylite name came from India. It's a kind of a local term within the subcontinent, right? But it's a technical term is a different one. But for you, you can call it pellitic gneiss, or otherwise you can call it garnet sillimanite gneiss. Garnet sillimanite, characteristically, it contains graphite as well. Okay, garnet sillimanite graphite gneiss, right? Once you have graphite and sillimanite, garnet together, only you call this rock as condylite. Otherwise, you just call it as garnet sillimanite gneiss or something, or pellitic gneiss, but not condylite, right? For condylite, you must have all these mineral collection together. And these are actually the types of rocks which are available in the highland complex. And these highland complex rocks are high temperature rock variety, high temperature rocks, as I mentioned. So that's why we term them as granulite phases, because the highland complex has suffered relatively higher temperature conditions than the other two complexes during the collisional tectonic processes during the formation of the Gondwana supercontinent. Okay, so these aspects we can consider in detail later on, but you have to keep in mind that the highland complex is the highest temperature rocks that we find out of the Sri Lankan rock units. So the highest temperature means we call them granulite phases, and therefore, because of their highest temperature nature, we term them as the high grade rocks. So I think somewhere I mentioned about high grade rocks. I don't know where, I can't remember. Yeah, here. High grade metamorphic. Actually, not all these 90% is high grade, but at least close to the high grade is there. So that's why we just in overall configuration, we term them as high grade rocks, right? But out of those high grade rocks, the highland complex has the highest grade rocks. Highest grade means the rocks which were formed under highest temperature conditions, highest grade rocks, highest temperature conditions. Okay, so that's the main ideas behind this geology of Sri Lanka and the geology of the highland complex. So I have to show you some details, specific details of the highland complex rocks in terms of field relations and also with regard to minerals. Okay, so I will come up with that in the next lecture, where I will see you some microscopic images as well, some characteristic minerals as well. Okay, although highest grade we said, the highland complex contain very high temperature minerals as well, right? Very high temperature minerals means ultra high temperature minerals. We call them ultra high temperature minerals because they were formed during metamorphism at temperatures in excess of 900 degrees Celsius, right? Usually beyond 900 degrees, what happens to the rock is the rock gets melted, right? So that's why some rocks contains partial melting. Some parts starts to melt, not complete melting, but some partial melt. If it happens to complete melting, then the metamorphism is no longer there. It becomes a magma, right? It becomes a magma means the rock is converted automatically to a igneous rock. So such extreme conditions were also prevailing in our terrain, where we have ultra high temperature metamorphic rocks. Such some characteristic minerals are there which are forming under very extreme conditions. Some minerals called sapphirine, right? It's also considered as a gem variety. I think you may know that is also found in gem gravels in Ratnapura region, sapphirine is a very nice bluish color mineral. Don't get confused with sapphire. Sapphirine is a silicate. Okay, sapphire, you know, it's a oxide, right? Aluminium oxide. But sapphirine is a silicate, aluminium, magnesium, iron silicate. Okay, but it forms under very high temperature conditions with a very, very nice blue color. So that is found in Highland complex very rarely, but some locations are there which were recorded, and Dr. Dharmapriya has a very good experience with that ultra high temperature minerals, because his PhD thesis is entirely based on ultra high temperature rocks in the Highland complex. So he did his PhD under my supervision. So he was able to find out the sapphirine in Sri Lankan rocks. Of course, it was found previously reported, but he could discover some other new locations as well containing this sapphirine. Under the microscope, only we could recognize, because they are not found in very big grains, but elsewhere, somewhere, these types of rocks, minerals should be there. So that's why we find them in Ratnapura area. Some hundreds of millions ago, these were found in rocks. That's why. So now we get the evidence even in under the, I mean, in the microscopic scale even. Okay, so we will see some more details with respect to their textures, their field relations, and also with the microscopic images as well. The observations of rocks under microscope, that is another subject. It's a different thing. You will learn about that under optical mineralogy course, where you will see minerals as well as rocks under the thin section, under practical classes at the Department of Geology, when you will be able to attend physically the classes. Okay. So I think for the time being, I think we can stop here for today. So do you have any question regarding this content up to now? Few minutes we can spend if you have any question. Okay, if no questions, we can stop here now, and we can start the next lecture next week with the other details of Highland complex and the remaining other complexes as well, with field relations and other textural features as well. Okay. So if you have no questions, so let me stop here. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
So we will stop here for today. Then we will consider, we will start the next sections next week. In the meantime, I will send you the, I couldn't send you the lecture materials pertaining to the last lectures. So I will do that in the days to come. Okay, so have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Very
sir.
much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you are welcome.